And away we go in part one of the Week 12 preview here on the Audible. Cecil Lammy, Sigmund Bloom, Pittsburgh and Cleveland. Okay, you beat up on Baltimore. You better not lose on the road to Cleveland. And that means Russell Wilson and not 100% Najee Harris, less Jalen Warren than we were expecting. George. Love George.
Mm-hmm.
Bloom. Love George.
Mm-hmm.
Dash of Calvin and some Freiermuth in the house for the Steelers on Thursday. What should fantasy GMs expect?
Yeah, you're right. See, classic trap game. And I don't know if you saw this, Dante Jackson in his first year with the Steelers. They asked him, "Is this a trap game?" And he said, "I played for Carolina. What's a trap
I don't know
game?
what a trap
I
game
don't
is.
know what a trap game is." Tongue in cheek, obviously, but it's good. Don't get too cocky, Steelers, because it is a classic Mike Tomlin. The good Mike Tomlin Steelers teams play down to their competition. We saw Cleveland treat a game against Baltimore at home as a Super Bowl, and they beat Baltimore. And this game's at home, and it's an island game. They know everyone's going to be watching. So, yeah, the Steelers can't stumble here as they now find themselves not just in the lead in the division and a chance to really take control of the division, but also maybe in the running to have the number one seed. You never know. Russell Wilson was disappointing for fantasy last week against Baltimore. Maybe a bounce back week. Cleveland's defense is good for at least one busted coverage a week. Last week it was Marquez Valdez-Scantling. So perhaps this could be a game, like you said, Calvin Austin could catch a deep ball, Mike Williams could catch a deep ball, but really this should be a massive George Pickens game. Like you said, Najee Harris still in control of this backfield. And we also saw Taysom Hill get free for some long runs last week against this Cleveland defense. Now you think the effort's going to be stronger. It is a good run defense, but you're going to play Najee Harris. He could easily get some short touchdowns in this one. Not really a game script for Jalen Warren, so he's more of a what the heck flex. But again, this is about that trap game narrative and about not losing the momentum after a hard-fought win against the Ravens.
Yes, Cleveland side. Okay, Bloom. Jameis could throw up the numbers,
Right,
but not against the Steelers.
right,
So if
right,
Jameis isn't doing that, Jerry's not doing that, Elijah's
right,
not
right,
doing that,
right.
and Joku's not doing that, and Chubb's doing what? I don't know.
Yeah, so here's the thing. So we've seen against a Saints defense that is kind of deteriorating 395 passing yards, right? Of course, against the Ravens pass defense, we know that's one of the worst in the league. Massive game. But against the Chargers, a good defense, not as much. He did rally at the end for some garbage time. But yeah, of the passing game plays, David Njoku is probably the one that you have the least hesitation to play because of his position. And also because if Winston's having to get the ball out quickly, that's David Njoku. But otherwise, Tillman, Judy, Elijah Moore, all probably what the heck flexes, is we're still trying to figure out exactly where is the mean for Jameis Winston. Is he really that matchup sensitive? And if that's the case, we saw this Pittsburgh defense frustrate Lamar Jackson last week. And for Chubb, it's just going to be a bad game script. We may even see more Jerome Ford than Chubb again this week. So you're probably not going to dabble in this backfield as we get to see AFC North football on Thursday night.
Yeah, AFC North football on Thursday night, and then moving on to NFC North.
Yeah, a lot of divisional games this week. The NFL, again, shifting
And 6 on
gears.
buys. 6
Yeah.
teams on buy. Ugh. Shifting gears. Sorry, Bloom, you were saying?
Yeah, just a lot of divisional games. The NFL is shifting. It's a weird schedule this year. So many, the Steelers just started their AFC North schedule last week. A lot of
Yeah.
teams, a lot of concentration of playoff implications because there's so many divisional games. And yeah, a lot of the slate this week. I'm looking sees 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 divisional games. I mean, they got 13 games this week.
Yeah. There you go. Well, let's talk about Minnesota side. And, some Aaron Jones watch. We talked about it at the waiver wire show with Cam Akers. Also TJ Hawkinson watch. Really, Bloom, to see if he can start doing a little bit more. Of course, you love Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson. Maybe not as much Sam Darnold. It's on the road against the Bears. What do the Vikings do to put up a fight with the assets that we normally trust?
Much like the talk about Jameis Winston, we're trying to figure out where Sam Darnold's mean is, right? Because he struggled a few weeks ago. Then he came back. He had like a good half and a bad half, then had a bad game, then had an okay game, but not as good as it looked, even though it was good for fantasy last week. There was a couple of penalties, one bunk penalty, one penalty that took away a Jeffrey Simmons sack fumble that kept that game from being closer than it was. So is Minnesota good? I'm not sure. Is Sam Darnold good? 6 teams on bye. I'm going to break ties probably against him this week because of the Chicago defense. Aaron Jones is wearing down more at Cam Akers. We're going to watch that situation. Aaron Jones not an automatic play, but again, 6 teams on bye. You're going to play Justin Jefferson. We're still waiting for his outburst. Josh Oliver's hurting. That means you're going to play TJ Hawkinson. Well, and this hurts me because I really thought Hawkinson at this point would be ready to go. Still under 50% of snaps. So maybe that does point to Jordan Addison as a play this week, because if Hawkinson isn't taking up the slack and Josh Oliver, who's outproduced Hawkinson, I think, in 2 of the 3 games that Hawkinson played, where do those targets go? They go to Jordan Addison. Or maybe this is just a defensive battle. And we see that Sam Darnold against a tough defense, against the Chicago defense that is still playing with a lot of pride. Maybe it is just a futility game, a game of field goals, a game of kickers, and not a game of fantasy value.
Let's talk about the aggressiveness that the Bears offense is going to face against that Vikings defense because, well, last week without Shane Waldron, hey, everybody, it was clicking.
Yeah.
And you want to win, you're at home. And the way it was clicking was more Roma Dunze, good. More Keenan Allen, the targets were there. More DJ Moore, the targets were there. Of course,
Right.
the catches weren't there. And then 2 backs that can get it done, of course, because they're amazing. And Roshan and DeAndre, a little less of Cole Kmet. So let's talk about their momentum with Caleb in the post-Waldron era. The post-Waldron, not yet quite post-Eberflus era.
Yeah, we'll get there. Give
What's
it
it look
time.
like? Yeah.
Right. And that's the thing, is we're looking at an offense that changed play callers in the middle of the season, and not just changed play callers, but you felt an exhale. You felt Caleb Williams relax a little bit, relax in the pocket, not be so uptight in terms of his process. You saw him much more willing to get out of that escape shoot and scramble. You saw DJ Moore getting 4 targets on screens. So it's safe to play DJ Moore. Roma Dunze, he's the number 2 target. Like you said, Keenan Allen, maybe the targets are there, but he's the number 3 in terms of fantasy value, and against a tough Minnesota defense. Again, if we're trying to judge this Chicago offense and what it's going to look like going forward, now granted, they have a lot of divisional games left, okay, but maybe Minnesota is not the best yardstick because this has been a very good defense. You mentioned the backfield split. So we saw more Roshan Johnson. Roshan Johnson's going to get the short yardage touchdowns. And also the team reaffirmed that this split, more like a committee split, is what they're looking for. Now, DeAndre Swift still had a long touchdown last week. It's hard to put DeAndre Swift on the bench, but it wouldn't be surprising if he's disappointing this week, if this whole offense is disappointing. One thing I do want to mention about Cole Kmet, I'm not saying to pick up Cole Kmet or play Cole Kmet. However, Gerald Everett, that was Shane Waldron's guy. And as soon as Shane Waldron's not there, now you're seeing Kmet get 90+% of snaps. So maybe just keep an eye on this. If we see this offense even be reasonably productive, 20, 23 points, which they should have had last week against a pretty good Packers defense, then things are going to be looking up. But again, this feels like a 13-10. Like if you get a turnover, you get a special teams play, that might be enough to win it.
Yeah, you're going to win it. You got Lions on your fantasy team. Bloom, that means you're going to win fantasy championships because I know you got a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Jared Goff, of course, and Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery and Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamison Williams as well. Maybe a little more Sam Laporta, whatever.
We'll
But
see.
against the Colts on the road this week, this one's interesting. They're not in the same conference, so I'm not going to say Super Bowl preview. But the Colts are going to be interesting to monitor the rest of
Yeah.
the way. Like, can they make the run? And the Lions, can they handle being the front runners in the NFL?
Yeah, I think, and I don't think there's any question about that, Cease. I mean, I think that Dan Campbell has done an incredible job making it so the feeling in the building, the feeling among the team is based on the team. It's not based on what's going on outside the building. Isn't that really job one whenever you're building a culture? This is about us. This isn't about them. We don't really care about them. And what a fun game, though. What a fun moment for this game to happen. Like you said, for Detroit, it's just trying to make the road to the Super Bowl go through Ford Field. And Indianapolis, there's a few teams: Miami, Indianapolis, Cincinnati, trying to sneak in. Maybe Denver actually would be the team they probably would try to displace unless Baltimore completely disintegrates. So you never know as this team is turning the corner. But the corners, all the corners have been turned for the Detroit offense 2 running back ones, 2 wide receiver ones last week. I think they said it's been 2017 since the team did that in 1
Wow.
week. Like New Orleans maybe did it. And if Sam Laporte is back, maybe it takes a little of the edge off of Jameson Williams' upside. But this secondary, the Colts secondary, you would expect the deep ball is going to be there. Of course, Jared Goff showing his ceiling. Again, 4 touchdowns, over 400 yards. And the first 3 touchdowns were scored on the ground by running backs. So this is fun, Cease. And I feel like I want to say a few times a year, let's remember 3-4 years ago, this was unthinkable that not just the best team in the NFL, but a team that is setting the bar higher than any other team right now. Nobody is close to executing the way that this team executes. And we'll get to see it against a quarterback that's starting to feel his oats.
Yeah. And hey, they trusted him and it worked.
Right?
Okay, and it worked with Alec Pierce more. You know what I mean? Because leading up to that game, it's like, what did Richardson learn from his benching? Probably downgrade guys like Pierce. No. Guys like Downs. No. Now they're going to stack the line, stuff the run against Jonathan Taylor. But Taylor's used to seeing stacked boxes. That's not a big deal. Plus, have you seen the adjusted accuracy rates, Sigmund? Do you know who's number 4? Number 2 is Bo Nix. It's Broncos show. Do you know who number 4 is on adjusted accuracy?
Is it Anthony Richardson?
It is Anthony Richardson.
Yeah.
Holy crap. You trust a guy and it works. Yeah, don't tap out, kid. Don't tap out. All right.
Right. Professionalism. But
they might be on to something. Indy, again, very dangerous as we get towards the playoffs.
what a fun game again.
Yes.
Because you're going to have to score 40, right? I mean, really, you're facing the Lions. You need a game plan to score 6 touchdowns, okay? If you really want to be honest about your chances of winning. And like you said, Detroit's going to take away the run. Not that there might be some plays. You want to get those plays if you can just get Jonathan Taylor with a head of steam to that second level. Maybe he's taking it to the house. So don't bench Jonathan Taylor because he could be part of, why not use him in the passing game? That was something that they were not using him enough. He's still their best player with the ball in his hands. So why not Jonathan Taylor as an emphasis, but not in that we're going to ground and pound, because that's the strength of the Lions defense. Lions defense also actually coming on now. So this is a great test for them because Anthony Richardson, when he's allowed to just play, can tilt the field in all kinds of ways with his legs, with his arm. And that what's exciting about this is, for fantasy, you love this, right? For fantasy, here's the thing, Anthony Richardson, you're going to need to score 6 touchdowns. So go out there and do it however you can. Go out there. It's okay. Failure is okay in this game. Failure is the norm when you face Detroit. So that's okay. Don't fear failure. Go out and try to make things happen. Try to keep us in this game. Try to keep this crowd excited in this game. Try to keep the season alive. So absolutely, Josh Downs is in, but Alec Pierce is probably in. Michael Pittman, if he had just caught one, and you're seeing every week there's at least one play where people will say, geez, Anthony Richardson's different.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been watching the NFL for our whole lives, and Anthony Richardson is still different. And he threw one over the middle to Michael Pittman that went through Pittman's hands, but it's because it was a real fastball, a real fastball. And Michael Pittman maybe not healthy, but still, in this kind of game, you could see all 3 of these guys come through. You could see Anthony Richardson put up the best quarterback score of the week. So for pure entertainment purposes and for fantasy purposes, this is the game you want.
3 games down, 3 games to go. Part 1 of the Week 12 preview here on the Audible. Less exciting, New England and Miami. I mean, you're digging for scraps. You'll have Ramondre Stevenson in. You may have Hunter Henry in. But you're kind of digging for scraps for Kendrick Bourne or Demario Douglas. I don't know, Sigmund. Patriots on the road. Again, watching the continued progress of Drake May. And that's mainly why I watch the Patriots now. Just see how May's improving.
And the answer is a lot. He looks good. If you watched the game last week, you would not think he was a rookie. You would not think he was a quarterback that drop one was going to be teaching him where that boundary is. He's making good decisions, playing with himself, understanding when to just give up to fight for the next play, and understanding when to be on that razor's edge, which he can play very well on because of his immense ability. So May is a quarterback 1, but Miami's defense is playing a lot better. Okay, Miami's defense is coming on. So that makes it a little tougher to pick any of these guys, except maybe Hunter Henry. He's probably going to lead the team in targets. He's probably going to be that safe target for Drake May. Otherwise, Kayshon Boutte gets on the field more than any other receiver, but hasn't had a big week for a while. Mario Douglas gets open more than any other receiver, but he's not on the field all the time. Kendrick Bourne had the biggest game last week. 5 catches, 5 targets, a touchdown, I think 70 plus yards. So Bourne's got the momentum. He's the player that has that veteran presence that Drake might be looking for at wide receiver. So they're all 3 what the heck flex plays with Ramondre Stevenson atop the backfield, as you said. And this is just a fun story. And again, I say it every week. Everything's ideal if you're New England because you're cruising towards a top 10 draft pick. You've got your quarterback. I think you've got your coach. I think Jared Mayo, all things considered, has got things going in the right direction. And you have a chance to spoil the season for Miami, who has no margin of error.
Yeah, Miami with no margin for error. And okay, what are you doing with Jalen Waddle? That's all I'm thinking about with Miami
Sure.
because we know Jonnu and of course Tyreek and all that. But it's like, what are you doing with Waddle now?
Yeah, well, and you're not playing him. And in fact, I'm going to Matt Kelly will be on the couch today, and that'll be where we start. And I think you can't play him, and maybe you drop him because really the scenario, and I'll probably repeat this exact thing on the couch in a few hours. The scenario that you're afraid of if you drop Waddle is if he gets hot and has 2 or 3 good games in a row. But now you're seeing the target distribution. You mentioned Johnny Smith. Cease, I noticed you mentioned him like, oh, of course Johnny Smith's going to be a big part of the game plan. Of course Johnny Smith is one of the signature players in this passing game, and we know Tyreek Hill is. So where does that leave Waddle, especially with Malik Washington? Not for fantasy, but dynasty leagues. Watch this guy because he's getting more work. And by the way, Smith was on the field for 81% of the snaps last week, his highest snap share. So he continues to grow. And of course, Devin Achane and the running game. So I think that's this offense. And Devin Achane's going to get his targets in the passing game too. So that makes it tough to trust Waddle. Makes it tougher to trust Tua, although we saw 4 touchdowns for Matthew Stafford last week. So Tua's a high floor play here. Miami, again, interesting team, starting to get things going in the right direction on defense. A balanced offense, not as exciting of an offense, but one should move the ball against the Patriots.
All right, let's talk Tampa Bay and the New York Giants. More interesting stuff on the Giants side, but we'll get to the Buccaneers first and foremost. Bloom, who's playing and who's healthy and who matters?
Right.
Because it's the Giants, so it should
Yeah.
matter a lot.
Yeah. Cease, after watching the Falcons last week, are you convinced that they're going to win this division?
No.
No. And the team that could spoil it for them is Tampa, who has a really
Yep.
easy schedule.
Yep.
They have one tough game left against the Chargers. So nothing has been handed to the Falcons while they're on bye. And Tampa, they want to make a statement. Mike Evans should be back. He should be in your lineup. Baker Mayfield, probably, some tough questions at quarterback this week. But if someone said Baker Mayfield or Sam Darnold, I'd probably say go with Baker because it's a Giants team that's waving the white flag. You're going to get Evans back. You know that you're going to get the passing out of the backfield. Bucky Irving is rested. So Irving and Rachaad White probably running back 2s. Kate Otten, does his role shrink a little bit with Mike Evans back? Still probably a solid tight end play against the Giants. It's again, you want to see how the Giants are going to respond without Daniel Jones. And you're seeing some stuff, New York teams, right? Like, see, we can't just have a New York news item. It can't be Daniel Jones is benched. It has to be Daniel Jones is benched and the players are upset because they think he gives the best chance to win in this player's name and this player's name. It can't just be Joe Douglas is fired. Joe Douglas is fired, but he didn't really make the decisions. And Woody Johnson, can't we just leave things as they are? But that just tells you how complicated it is for the New York teams for the perception game. And probably while some people will be excited to watch Tommy DeVito, the players maybe, even though they won with him, not the most excited.
I'll have to nose around with Drew's camp and see, like, where else could you have gone?
Yeah.
Could you have just stayed in Seattle? I maybe misremembering Baltimore might have been on his list.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, go win a ring behind Lamar. Anyway, let's talk Giants football because it's not that exciting. But it's exciting to think of Shadur Sanders, right?
Yeah.
Throwing to Malik Neighbors, handing off to Tyrone Tracy next year.
Right. And I mean, those are the 2 names, right? Malik Neighbors and Tyrone Tracy, you still play them, but you're holding your breath a little bit because with Tracy, you hope he stays involved in the passing game. You hope Tommy DeVito dumps the ball off to him a lot because Tampa's run defense is pretty tough. With Malik Neighbors, You just hope that DeVito is more effective than Daniel Jones. Don't laugh. Don't laugh. They did win some games with Tommy DeVito, but he's Tommy DeVito. So that's the big question here. Wan'Dale Robinson maybe getting a lot of short targets. Again, that would be bad for Neighbors, though. Bad for Tyrone Tracy. We want him getting those targets. And you look at the Giants and you look at the schedule, and it is kind of twisted the way the NFL actually breaks ties in the draft based on who had the easier schedule. Like, it's not enough to be bad. You have to be bad against a bad schedule. Giants' schedule the rest of the way, outside of a game like Tampa and one or two other games, is pretty bad. So keep losing, and maybe those dreams of Shadur Sanders will come true.
There we go. There we go. Dallas. Speaking of Shadur Sanders, he's going to the Shrine Game, everybody. Sorry, I've been like super distracted. I'm texting a million people. I'm sorry. I'm sorry,
This is
Bloom.
important.
Shadur Sanders is going to the Shrine Bowl, the 100th Shrine Bowl
in Frisco, Texas.
It was there, and it's so fantastic. So happy for Eric Galco. Yeah, let's talk about the Cowboys, because there's this dream. Michael Irvin saying he's got it on good authority that Dion would go to the Cowboys if they drafted Shadur. Okay, so you'd have no first round picks forever. You'd have no Micah Parsons. You'd have however much dead cap you'd have for Dak. Trying to get rid of him. Maybe you trade Dak, whatever. Anyway, Cowboys and Commanders. It's a mess on the Cowboys side. Now Jake Ferguson's probably not going to play.
Right.
Already they've declared him out with the concussion. Let's get the Cowboys out of the way and get to Commanders and get this thing wrapped up.
Yeah, I think with this team, we're looking at, well, TD Lamb's getting enough targets. Cooper rushed through 55 times. But do we see the move to Trey Lance at some point in this game? They're saying
he's going to have packages.
Right. Well, and at some point, they're going to lose either way. Luke Schoonmaker, 6 catches for 56 last week. So if you need a tight end off the waiver wire with Jake Ferguson out, can we see maybe a little more Jonathan Mingo? We did see Ryan Flournoy in a bigger role. So, we're doing deep dynasty evaluation here. But the last thing I'll say on this cease is, I'm going to say like whatever. Yeah. But if there's an organization that is crazy enough to get the Sanders combo, even with Dak Prescott signed to millions and millions of dollars, and they'll have to eat it, Dallas is that organization. So, so don't give up on this. It's all about, you're either pushing for the playoffs or you're dreaming about Shadur Sanders.
Oh, that's right. Let's talk about the other side, the Commanders side. Dreaming of a healthy Jaden Daniels. For anyone, being like, oh, Jaden's stumbling, fumble. Yes, I have it on good authority, like Michael Irvin, per source. Jaden probably shouldn't be playing with the ribs injury, and he's playing.
Right.
So, and I'll defend Jaden to the end. But as the guy that told you the Commanders were going to take him before anybody else, yes, Bloom, I'll do the
break
my arm, pat myself on the back.
No. I'll pat you on the back.
Yeah. I will say this, like, that kid's he's a trooper, man.
Yeah.
And what he's playing through.
Yeah. And for fantasy, you're seeing the numbers drop off. It is a good matchup against Dallas. So trust your gut here. If you're looking at Jaden Daniels saying, is it a bounce back week? Because it is Dallas. Hopefully you start seeing him look like first half Jaden Daniels. And it's awkward for Washington because they have to say, no, it's he's missing practice. That's why he doesn't look the same. It's not that he's hurt because, reporting requirements and so on.
Sure.
At least you saw him relying more on Austin Eckler in the passing game last week. In a rough game, Philadelphia defense, Vic Fangio, every day coming on. So Eckler, Brian Robinson, you would think in a game that they can handle. Why drop Jaden Daniels back that much to pass? Why have him run that much? Maybe drop him back to have throws downfield to Terry McLaurin a few times. You keep Terry McLaurin in. Zach Ertz had a decent week last week. But ideally, if you're Washington, you only have him drop back 15 times. You don't have any designed runs. Hopefully you win this game and you stay on track for your playoff spot and maybe to keep Philadelphia in sight even after that loss. So maybe break ties against Jaden Daniels, but you hope he looks impressive on the snaps. They do ask him to move and to throw so that we can trust him down the stretch with that bye week coming up in a few weeks. Just get him there in one piece. And then for the fantasy playoffs, we'll be in business.
All right, we're in business. It's the audiblefootballguys.com. Make sure to check us out there. If you want to support the show, subscribe to footballguys.com. Make sure to subscribe to all of our YouTube channels. We got 3 of them. They're really awesome. Subscribe to them all. The Audible right here. We got our fantasy football channel, And then, of course, we got our Dynasty channel. So check us all out on YouTube. Like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you never miss a vid. He's Sig. I'm Cease. Stay frosty.